Okay. And like when can you do it? You got them in stock now?
Mr. Stone, your hearing is deteriorating rapidly. Am I right? And over the next few days, or even hours, it's going to continue. And the hearing that you have lost is not coming back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How y'all doing tonight?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing good. Doing real good. I'm full, man. I just got back from a birthday dinner for my youngest brother, Ashton. Today's his birthday. So
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
If
Ashton.
he listens, yes, sir.
Yeah. So we went to like a hibachi type grill and had teppanyaki, and it was good, but it was a lot of food. It didn't help that I got extra fried rice too. So
You always gotta get
I've
extra
never
fried
had
rice.
teppanyaki, like hibachi, anything.
When they cook in front of you?
Oh, for
Never.
real?
That's the
Never.
best, dude.
it's good. You'll never want to eat fried rice.
No way.
I don't even
on
eat
any
fried
other way.
rice, though,
But
because
you-
I don't eat eggs.
But listen, you haven't had fried rice the way
There-
that they make it.
Yeah,
Like,
there's something
teppanyaki.
different when they make it right in
When they
front
put
of
that hot and spicy, that's where it's at.
I always hear about it, but I never gone.
you. I feel like that's
It's good.
every time it's someone's birthday, that's where they go. I feel like
Yeah.
everyone I know that they do that.
No, I always go to Applebee's.
Applebee's. Imagine they start cooking it for you at Applebee's.
Yeah, serving you dollar margarita singing.
Dude, that's the
Little bit of chicken fried.
cold beer on a Friday night.
Go hit it. Pair of
Pair of
jeans.
jeans, right.
But yeah, it was good, man. It was nice. So
Good day. Yeah.
Yeah.
My day was fine. Just regular old day.
nice. But you, Abe?
It was my day off today.
Okay.
So I laid in bed, I watched YouTube, and watched the movie, and that's how I did.
Nice. Nice.
All right.
It's a perfect thing to do on a rainy day.
It was rainy day. Actually, I was sad because I left my sunroof open.
Oh,
But it didn't get that wet. It got like the inside of my like cover in wet.
okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let it dry when it gets hot.
Okay.
But I know this weather's been kind of crazy too, huh?
Yeah, man. It was like
90 last week.
Yeah, it was like 90 degrees on Friday.
And
or
now I got a
Thursday.
sweater on.
Yeah, weird. And like Saturday, it was like super windy and dusty. Like, yeah,
Bringing in this rain. I mean, we need the rain, but
it's rough.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyways,
How was work for you?
it was all right. It was busy. We had a couple people call out, and I was on phones today, so it's just off the hook all day. But
Yeah.
it makes it go by fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it gets us quicker to talking about this movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So Nick, it was your pick,
It was, yes.
and we did which movie?
We did The Sound of Metal, and it was directed by Darius Marder. And I didn't catch any of the writers. There's some screenplay stuff by Abraham Marder and Derek Sion France.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
also co-written by Darius as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
I believe Darius and Abraham Marder are brothers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a Amazon exclusive, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
Literally not streaming anywhere.
Yeah, you have to have Amazon Prime to watch.
I'm very sorry about that because I honestly I went to my Apple TV and I was like, all right, sound of all it was a Sound of Music. I was like, what the heck? And I had to borrow someone's Prime to get to it. But I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was a pretty interesting movie.
Yeah.
It was really like kind of heartbreaking at some points, but also kind of hopeful as well, and brought me a little bit more like information on how to deal with things like that, or how people do find ways to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah. I think the film is really smart in showing that like being deaf, like it isn't the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
Like there's tons of things. Like I thought it was so cool seeing that little machine that they use that like spells out the words on the screen, or like the telephone that they use that also does that as well.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Mhm.
Like I you know, like there's something in the back of my mind that like thinks something like that would have existed, but was never really sure about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool to see something like this used in a movie and be like, this is stuff that, you know, it's available to people who are deaf or hard of hearing and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And I just think it sheds a little light on the ASL community.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, how we should care for them more. Like, 'cause I was talking to Nick about it over dinner, and I was like, it kind of makes me want to even learn sign language, seeing this. Because, one, there's probably people who you don't know who are, or who you know who are maybe going deaf or are deaf.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it just sheds some light on it.
Yeah. This movie also makes me extremely grateful for, you know, being able to have things that, you know, we take for granted, like our hearing or our sight or, you know, like even like things like our taste of touch or feeling and, you know, all that stuff. It's the little things that, like, you know, make up our everyday lives that we take advantage of, and, you know, we would never really notice them until they're gone.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, people always ask the question, you know, of all your senses, which one would you get rid of? Or if you had to get rid of one, which one would it be? And my first one is always hearing. Because I didn't think, you know, I don't really care about music too much, not that big a deal, but there's so much more that goes into hearing, like not being able to hear like your significant other's voice, not being able to hear the wind gushing through the leaves, and
like the sound of rain.
The sound of rain.
If I couldn't hear the sound of rain or the sounds of waves crashing anymore, I'd probably be so sad.
Yeah, there's a lot of comfort in the little noises that we don't even, like you said, we take advantage of. So it kind of got me to think about that a little bit more. I know all of the senses are pretty much vital, but
I'll lose taste. I'm okay.
Taste.
I love food.
I do too, but then that means you can eat whatever. If you're struggling, like imagine you're on a stranded desert and you got to eat something.
Just
eat a critter.
Handfuls of sand, dude.
No, you could eat a critter or something.
Listen, if I'm stranded on a desert, I'm gonna do anything I can to survive. So I won't care about like if something tastes nasty.
You could probably make.
I'm not gonna be like, they don't have chicken nuggets on the island. I'm not gonna eat I'm eating so.
You're grabbing
survive,
a fish
bro.
and you're just.
Yeah, I'm going full primal on that thing, dude. It's not.
Yeah, you never saw Castaway, man?
I've never seen it.
Oh, dude, Castaways. That's a good movie,
dude. The whole.
Yeah, oh, dude. Oh. Tom Hanks is the GOAT.
Tom Hanks is
He's
good.
the GOAT for that.
But seriously,
yeah,
I'm reevaluating my senses now.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
All thanks to this movie.
Yeah. Like I said, whenever I finish this movie, I'm immediately like, man, I don't know what I would do without my hearing. It's kind of one of those things, like, I can't even imagine like going through something like that, especially like with me being a drummer, like, and music being a big part of my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine losing something like that and, like, you know, having to, you know, only listen to music through like the vibrations and the floor and like only experiencing like that like rhythmic like tapping and stuff, and then having to use my imagination like
to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
A little off topic, but I want to say like 2019, 2018, there was a girl who went on America's Got Talent who made her own song. I don't know her name, but the way she played her song was by the vibration. She was deaf. And she actually, I think she got a golden buzzer. And she made it to like, I want to say third or fourth. Oh, wow. I'm not sure. But you saying that, it was like, it's still possible to play music, but like, you just have to adapt. Yeah. And I don't know, made me think about that.
Yeah. Just goes to show music's in you.
I want to see if
it's not necessarily something that can always be learned.
Yeah. And also that, you know, they were even talking about saying like being deaf, they don't view it as a disability either.
I like that quote a lot.
First off, the whole character of Joe is just so wholesome.
Yeah, I really enjoy his character.
I do too. He's kind of like that anchor point that you know brings all the wholesomeness into this film. He's like the only character that's like wholesome. You know what I mean?
Solid in his beliefs and his exactly. He's that anchor point. Yeah. He's something that somebody who is struggling can go to and be like, okay, this is what you should do. It's wholesome.
Yeah, like I love him for that.
Well, let's talk about this thing. Let's unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we said, streaming on Amazon Prime if you do have one. I think that's, like we said, the only way that you'll be able to watch the film is if you do have Amazon Prime, because it is an Amazon original. So we apologize for that. But again, it is a great film. We do recommend you do so. Go check it out. There are going to be some spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen this movie or if you want to check it out and you don't want to hear spoilers, pause it, come back, or if you don't care, continue listening.
Yep.
Up to you. So let's go ahead and start off with our first favorite scene.
Let me do a synopsis. Or have we already done that?
No, we have not.
No, we
yeah,
haven't.
let's do a synopsis and then we'll do the first favorite.
Synopsis, this will be very similar to I basically summed it up last episode at the end.
Yeah.
It's about an ex-addict who is now playing it's Riz Ahmed that we talked about earlier, but he is playing in a heavy metal band with his girlfriend, who is Olivia Cook. Her name is Lou in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he pretty much immediately loses his hearing. Like, pretty much immediately in the film.
Yeah.
He loses his hearing, and it's like a really big deal for him, and it affects him obviously very strongly because his whole life is kind of being uprooted. And this whole movie kind of follows him as he struggles through it, right? And learns to be deaf and learns to kind of accept who he is. And there's a bunch of stuff that happens throughout, but that's kind of the main gist of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get talking about it. What's your guys' first favorite scene?
Mine was actually the opening.
Did you like it?
I like the opening.
I do too.
And the only reason why is because Isaiah would talk about some crazy shows he's gone to and like the Circle of Death and just like things like that. And it reminds me also of like that Vine of that Denny's one. What the heck is up, Denny's?
Dude, that's one of my favorite videos.
Dude,
What's up? What's up,
Denny's?
What the f is up, Denny's?
Yeah.
Everyone's all,
And that's
just
what-
going
and that's all he's like. Ruben, who's one of the main characters, he's
Yeah.
just going hard on these drums.
Yeah.
And the vocalist, who we come to find out is Lou.
Yeah. His
It's just
girl.
going in.
Yeah.
and I was
It's
just like-
tons of
It starts with
feedback.
feedback at the
Yeah.
beginning, and you're like, oh, of course he's losing his hearing, dude. Look at what he's listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I don't know how to classify this other than like just noise. Like
Yeah.
it's noise metal. Like they're in like the DIY like punk scene.
Yeah.
It seems like it's
I can't remember
it's
the
for lack of a
lyrics.
better term, it's crusty. Like it's
No,
like
it's not.
it's DIY. It's,
Yeah,
it's you're putting on your own tour, you're doing your own stuff. It's very bare bones, like no labels, nothing.
No.
Like
Yeah.
we're playing in the backs of garages and
It's
these
But
dive
that's some of the
bars and stuff and
best
everything. That's a very punk show.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like this like noise rock where it's just full of like feedback and these like dissonant guitars and loud banging drums and these like almost unintelligible like
Words.
vocals. She's
Yeah,
just like
I don't even know
she's
what
like
she's saying.
she's like purify.
Dude,
Like just
I didn't even know what she
screaming
was
stuff,
saying.
like, it's
I
it's wild. I've never been to a show like that, but
But
I've been to
It-
some crazy ones.
it
Like
just
I've-
reminded me of like the stories you told me. So I
Yeah.
was like, man, I wonder what it feels like to be in that.
like
I'd
that,
just
like
be sitting in the
that-
back, you're like, bro.
no, like, and that's the
Robbie.
thing is like with noise shows like that, like no one's moshing or doing anything. Like they're just watching these
They're
people
just enjoying the
go in,
noise.
going crazy.
Yeah.
Like the shows I go to and have been to are like hardcore shows.
Yeah.
Like the types of shows you see on YouTube where people are
Like-
is a horseshoe pit. Like there's nobody wanting to stand in the front, man, because they don't want to get hit. Like and if you're standing in front of the horseshoe,
You're getting messed up.
you're expecting to get hit. Like
Yeah.
that comes with the place.
Let
like,
me
that you have in
let me
line,
just
so.
put on a bunch of clothes on and I'll just stand right there in the middle. Just
Yeah.
I'll get knocked out.
But I gotta say I love this intro too. It's
Yeah.
it's very chaotic.
Yeah.
And we immediately get a sense for why Ruben is immediately losing his hearing.
Yeah.
Like he is just surrounded every night by this like just like all this crazy stuff and he's doing it over and over and over and over every night. Like that is their form of life.
Mm-hmm.
It is not only how they earn a living, they they play shows, they sell records and tour and all that stuff. That's their way of life.
Mhm.
That is their normal. And I love how they immediately give us that, and then afterwards We cut, and
this is what I love.
It's like immediately peaceful after.
It's so peaceful.
They are in bed. They're sleeping in their little RV that they have that they tour in, and we get a feeling it's just them two. There's no touring manager. There is no like booking agent. There's nothing. It's just them two on the road hitting shows. Whoever shows up, and like we see all their like recording equipment and drums and. Little kitchen and stuff and everything. I love his little morning routine that he does.
Makes breakfast.
Yeah, he like makes the smoothies and breakfast and, puts a record on.
And they dance
and gets
together.
Lou up. Yeah,
so
it's cute.
It's
cute.
very
cute. And we immediately get to see like these two sides of them. Like when we first get introduced to like Lou, she's just like absolutely going in. Like she's just screaming her head off and is fully in the moment and being overtaken by the music that they create. And the same with Ruben. But then, the next morning it's like they're like changed people and they're slow dancing to some like Delta jazz.
It was actually super cute to see that.
And he's like, "Hey, I made you this smoothie. It's disgusting, but you got to drink it. It's healthy for you." And like,
you want to try it?
Yeah.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things like it even cuts to them driving afterward and they're having this like just like random conversations that like couples have and be like, oh, why do you think so and so is blah blah blah, or like what's the one thing that guy said in the song that he wouldn't do? And she's like, oh, probably this.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, that is probably it. Oh. And they laugh and stuff. It's they're a normal couple. And I really enjoyed them taking that stance and showing us that like these guys are everyday people.
Yeah.
Just like us.
Yeah, the reason I liked it a lot is because we get to see kind of their main daily routine, right, where they go do shows and then they have a very calm morning. But what I love is the next morning when he is losing his hearing and he wakes up, and instead of it being like this lively, jovial place, he's just laying in bed and we hear the what he's hearing, that like drumming noise. Yeah. And it's already, you're like, oh. It's so completely different because we get all these scenes of like he's making the smoothie, but he can't hear the blender.
Yeah, it's just like.
Yeah, it's like the very low humming.
Yeah.
And he, he puts the music on, but he can't hear anything. He's in the shower, he can't hear the shower, and immediately you're like, oh, this sucks. And it kind of surprised me because I didn't think they were gonna do it this quickly. They immediately get us introduced to him going deaf.
Yeah. Which
I enjoyed, and I liked how they set it up because we hear all the noise. And then it immediately gets taken away from us. Yeah,
I love the way that they. I love the sound editing and like the use of sound in this. It really immerses us in like almost. I don't want to say this in a way that sounds like sort of like corny, but with a movie like this, sound is so important.
No, yeah, it is,
and it's something I think that we take for granted a lot in movies, but. The sound editing and everything in this makes it almost makes us like feel for the character even more because we are getting a sense of what our main character is going through at certain aspects. Like I immediately think of like towards the end whenever he gets the implants.
Oh yeah,
and all we hear, dude,
gosh,
it's awful.
It's awful.
Like all we hear
I would
is just
never want to hear that.
Dude, imagine paying $40,000 for that.
And then being told that like, oh, that the surgery like actually doesn't make your ears work again. It just tricks your brain into thinking that you're hearing. Yeah. And it's like, you're kidding me.
Why would I pay this money then?
Yeah. Like and he's sitting there like, I love that scene too. It's such a bro moment, but he's like, oh, it sounds horrible. Like, can you fix it? And she's like, well, you're just gonna have to get used to it.
Yeah. It's almost like he's in disbelief too, because he's like, It's not
working.
It's not working.
He's like, it's bad. Like, this sucks.
Yeah. Man, I was never more heartbroken. Like in a moment right there, like this guy put so much hope into like being like, I can fix it. I can do this thing. I can get my life back. Exactly. I can do what I need to do in order to, go back to my normal.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't realize that this is his normal now. Yeah.
One of the scenes I really liked is when he was going to the doctors from the very first time. He's talking to that guy, and it's kind of basically running down his whole condition. But what I liked a lot too is he has his little headphones on, and I guess they amplify the noise or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I'm gonna read some words to you, and you're gonna repeat them." And he says stuff like "car," and we don't hear what he's saying back because we're in his perspective, and we're just hearing like
nothing.
Like
we
pretty much
hear,
it's like
we
it's
hear
like
what the
it's like
guy is saying.
Right,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that, and then we get to see the doctor's perspective, and he'll say car, and the guy will say broom, and it's just completely wrong, and immediately we can tell that like his hearing is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And he goes on to say like, you have like 24% hearing in your right and 28 in your left, and this is pretty much your life now.
Yeah, and it's deteriorating. Like
Yeah.
it's only going to get worse.
Yes. And he says he literally tells him you cannot be around loud music, like loud noises at all anymore.
Yeah.
And that's literally his whole life.
Yeah.
His whole life revolves around just that metal music.
Yeah.
So it's already like his life is being destroyed.
And
right?
it's just like within, literally, I think I want to say like within 2 or 3 days, he loses all of his hearing.
Yeah.
Basically.
No, it's within that night.
Yeah.
It's
Well, because
and-
he goes back and plays another show.
Yeah,
And I
and-
think that shows what made it reach its peaking point to lose it all.
Oh, it did. But I think it also shows how prideful people are. Like how I know so many people in my life where like, you know, a doctor tells them what to do. Like I think of my grandpa, for example, whenever he was on chemotherapy and was dying of cancer, doctors were telling him, hey, like, you need to take it easy now. You can't be working in the backyard anymore. You can't be doing gardening or anything like that. And he's like, they're not going to tell me what to do.
and they still do
And
it.
he's, you know, gardening. Like, he's doing something that he loves, but it's hurting him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I think, like, the same thing for Ruben in this instance. Like, doctor tells him, hey, listen, if you want to preserve what little you have right now, you need to cut off all exposure from loud noises because your hearing is deteriorating rapidly. And it's something that we need to try to control and figure out what, you know, we need to run some further tests and all that stuff to see exactly what is making this happen.
Yeah.
And it, like, I love the splash cut. Like, it's a big bro moment. This whole scene is a bro moment for me because it's this immediate splash cut to like him, like in there, like he's in the doctor's office, and then afterwards it's just.
Oh, dude, that's the biggest bro moment.
Like, it's just immediately
Like, how are we gonna do
right
that?
back into the chaos and everything, and we start to see like the sound drowns out, and he starts to be off, and everyone's kind of looking at him, and he's just kind of like.
I love
right.
how
And then
they do
just,
it too.
He gets up and just walks out.
Mm-hmm.
He's almost kind of like hyperventilating because he's like I imagine having all that attention on you doing what you love but doing it wrong because you can't hear.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and we're in his perspective still, so we can't hear anything. And she comes up to him, she's like, you know, obviously saying what's wrong, and then you don't hear, but he's saying I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
But we can't hear, but we know
it's very
he's saying
muffled.
it.
It's very 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 muffled, where he just goes like.
I can't hear anything.
It breaks
I think
your heart, man.
I think the way they showed it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Riz Ahmed has this acting where he like, I don't know, like I truly believe the guy. Like he has this subtle like physical acting, and like he makes it believable. Like he's like I truly can't hear anything right now. I can't hear a word you're saying. And I really enjoy his performance in this movie, and I enjoy him just in general. He's an amazing actor. But yeah, it's another really great scene. My second favorite scene, I really love whenever oh no, that's pretty far into the movie actually. What do you guys have for
My next
second
one's
favorite
pretty
scenes?
far into the movie as well.
Okay, so I'll bring up mine because it's pretty much right after she gets in touch with. I'm guessing she calls his old like sponsor.
Yeah,
I want to say sponsor. I kind of assumed maybe like a PO.
Yeah,
I thought it was a sponsor just because, you know, he's like, listen,
willing.
He's like, listen, I had a cigarette. I think it's pretty warranted given the situation. Like, you know, he's telling somebody what is happening,
Yeah.
and then we find out later that he is an addict, that he's been doing heroin and all.
Yeah,
this
and that's
stuff.
why like I changed my thought of maybe it was a PO because because he said this person sets him up, where I'm assuming you're talking about.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes. He sets him up going to a deaf place.
A deaf community.
Yeah.
A deaf community and I think it's specifically for people who...
For addicts.
Yeah, for addicts. And one of my favorite scenes is when we get introduced to Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, he's also deaf, and he leads him into this room, and it's kind of what you're talking about the whole computer system. And the reason why I liked it is because, not only is he losing the language that he knows, but he's also having, he doesn't know, he can't even read lips, or he can't hear English anymore, and now he's being completely introduced to sign language.
Yeah.
I imagine how thrown off he has to be, right?
Yeah.
And to see him bring out the computer that, what would you say? It's like dictates.
Yeah, I would say it picks up. It's like a little microphone.
Yeah.
And it picks up what you or speech to text.
Yeah, speech to text is basically what it is, so he can read it. And man, it was pretty heartbreaking, but also you can kind of see Riz's acting here is subtly where he was just a normal guy, but now he has an emphasis on his anger.
Yeah, and it's this very subtle acting where he's not outright angry. He is kind of I'm pissed off at this situation, and
not at you, yeah.
And I'm angry that this is happening to me right now.
And the way he lets his anger slip, I think throughout these scenes is just pretty much incredible.
Oh yeah.
But the guy is asking him questions like, how long have you been an addict? How long have you known Lou? And all that stuff. And he goes on to say this is a deaf community. We are working with this other community, and we're helping each other. And this is a place I think you could benefit. I mean, you need help. She's saying that you need help. But the only way you can do that is it's just you and you alone. There's no outside communication, so she would have to leave, and it would be solely him trying to basically accept his situation.
Yeah, he has to learn how to be deaf.
Yeah, and there was one of the quotes I loved in that was him saying, being deaf is not something that we're trying to fix.
Yeah.
Right? We'll get to it in the best quotes, but it's this whole scene of setting up his future, and I loved it.
Yeah, that scene has one of my favorite quotes from the entire film as well, where we understand that Ruben is still trying to somewhat hold it together, and he keeps asking him, how are you feeling? And he just says, I'm okay, and he's like, how long have you been using? Have you thought about using since this happened and all this stuff? And the only thing that Ruben has to say is, today's not a good day.
Mm.
Yeah, which makes you think he wants to.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. That addict brain, that addict mentality is immediately triggered when something doesn't go your way, or when something happens that throws a wrench in your plans. I would imagine that first instinct is to, man, I need to go do that thing.
Yeah.
I need to go distract myself and indulge in the thing that has been tearing me up. I would imagine that's the first instinct. So that quote, today's not a good day, it just, I don't know, it hits pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And his delivery of it as well, it just makes me fully believe him. So, really like that.
What was your next favorite scene? Because like I said, mine's pretty deep in.
So,
because mine is when I can say mine is at the. So he's finally coming to his senses, or he's finally coming together. He's this is not going to change, and it's the second time he goes to the school with this little boy, and he's going to the playground.
Okay, so mine is whenever they leave the deaf community, and
okay, so this is before mine. Yeah,
so when they leave and they go back to the trailer, and he's working on something in the back, where they sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole time, Lou is watching him and is just kind of we need to get you help. She's not saying it, but you can tell by her face that she is this isn't going to work. You need to be here.
Yeah.
And, she goes up to him and says nothing. And he's like, look, we can make this work. Like, I'll be like a click track, and you know, you'll play from me. You'll take my cues. I know all the songs inside and out. We'll make it work. It'll be fine. And I love that immediate cut afterwards to him, like, freaking out in the morning and just completely breaking down. And this is where we see his anger getting the best of him.
Yeah.
And he just starts to trash a ton of this equipment and just smash things and all this stuff. And meanwhile, Lou is like screaming at him, but he can't hear her because he is just fully engulfed in this moment and is ultimately deaf at this point. And it's one of those moments where I started to almost tear up for the guy, because I was like, man, I could not imagine the frustration, the anger in that situation. Why is this happening to me? Being bombarded with having to learn an entire new language, a whole new way of life, giving up everything that you've known. Yeah. I can understand that weight, and I can only imagine how much that could, weigh on a person before they snap. Yeah. And it was one of the scenes that I really did enjoy. And then I also really like whenever they communicate with each other through writing. Yeah. And, seeing how frustrated he gets, where she starts to say, like, you need help. And he's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm deaf. Like, yeah. And he starts to, like, get angry with her and is frustrated. And he's like, I can't understand what you're saying.
That's kind of like what I was so patient with him, too.
I was thinking that, though, because she knows that she still is trying to talk to him. I'm like, bruh, come on.
I mean, but
just write it down. Yeah. Or they have phones. Literally just go in your notes and just talk. And it'll type it for you, right?
Yeah.
You gotta think smarter, not harder, man. She's straight up writing like, and he's reading it as she's writing it and answering. It's gotta be brutal.
Yeah, but that was one of my favorite scenes right there.
Yeah. I guess it's one of my bro moments, but it's basically right after that where she pretty much decides to leave him.
Oh, that's a big bro moment for me.
Yeah.
And
he's like, you got away from me. Dude.
When she starts to like tear up, and she doesn't say anything. She just nods her head yes every time he says something, and I almost teared up for him, because I was like, obviously you need someone to help you. Yeah. Like, you need someone to be right there beside you. This is so new to you.
That's all he's got too.
Exactly. But then also, what Joe is saying is, like, you got to do this yourself. Like, nobody's can help you in this situation. So it's like a lose. I wouldn't say a lose-lose situation, but it's like you're losing someone who should be there for your support.
Well, even then too, it's subtly told to us where he's asking him questions of, like, saying, well, how long have you been clean? 4 years. And then how long have you been with her? 4 years. Yeah, so we can kind of correlate his sobriety with
Lou.
Yeah, with Lou. So we know that she's way more than just just his partner. Yeah. She's like, and we get it later on, the ending of that, where he says she literally saved his life.
Yeah.
So to see, his life being uprooted, what he loves, drumming, being uprooted, and also who he loves completely just being torn away from him is
in a matter of 2 days.
2 days, and I loved it too, because it's not only affecting him, it's going to affect her as well. Yeah. She's saying, like, if I stay and if we do this, I'm going to hurt myself.
Yeah, she suffers from self-harm. Yeah. She's like, I'm going to, like, self-harm if I continue to do this.
So it's not only beneficial for him to go back to that place, but for her to leave this situation, because
which also
they would destroy each other, basically.
Just makes me think, like, they look so good together, like, but then why are they together if she's hurting?
See, and that's the thing. Is like,
that's also, like, I feel like that's also the addict's mentality.
Well, I don't think that I mean, in the short time that we see their relationship, we understand that it's fruitful. Yeah. Right. Like it's something that benefits the two of them. But I would think that whenever, stressors come into the relationship, that's whenever things start to get a little rocky. Yeah. Right. Sure. And especially something that is life altering. Mm-hmm. That is as life-altering as this. Yeah. I can only imagine that it would be, sort of like a vice to be like, I have to do something, and my brain is immediately telling me to do this. Yeah. And, the only way to get out of that would be for us to, like, part ways right now.
Yeah. Well, and I even imagine too, like, she is in no way equipped to help him.
No.
Not at all. Way at all.
Yeah, she's in this as much as he is.
Exactly. And she doesn't know any sign language. She's doing the best she can, which is providing him a place to go and that place literally is separating them. She can't be there.
Yeah.
So she has to kind of, and I like it too because she says something like, "Oh, I hate going back there," or something. And of the little, backstory we get of her, we know that she's has some hurt from somewhere else that she's kind of trying to run from, and now she's gonna have to go and confront her problem as well off screen. But they're kind of both dealing with problems in their life, and they somehow get better for it.
Yeah.
But by being separated, so you kind of have to question, why they are together.
Yeah.
Which is something interesting. But her definitely saying goodbye was one of my favorite scenes.
Moments.
Yeah.
So go ahead with yours.
Do you have anything before?
So my next one after that is when he goes to the school for the first time.
Mine's still after, because mine's when he goes to the playground.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's
mine's close to that.
I think mine's after that. So this one is whenever he gets introduced to the school and he gets taken in, and I can only imagine how kind of humiliating and like degrading that must be to like be a full grown adult in a classroom with a ton of children who are learning sign language and all this stuff, and now you have to be put in that situation as well. But the thing that I really enjoyed about this scene was seeing these kids and seeing them interact with one another and how close knit they all are as a group. And then that teacher, like
teacher's so cool.
Oh, dude, I loved her. Like I love how immediately she is kind of like, hey, like this is what we're gonna do here. Like, what's your name? Like, and she's like,
she does it.
Yeah, and she's like signing and saying like, she's like, my name is, and then writes her name out, and she's like, her name's Diane or something like that, and then she says, what is your name? And is doing all of these signs and stuff, and he kind of writes it out, and then she looks at him and is just kind of like, okay, look, R is,
she like spells it out.
Yeah, and then she's all, look, everyone else, and they all start doing
that
R.
was super cute.
And I like that eventually Ruben just kind of breaks down and is kind of like, all right, R.
He's
at first he does like this, and then she helps him.
And then she's like, no, twist it, and
that's
so he,
R.
Twists it a little bit, and it was one of those scenes where I was just kind of like, I love that she's immediately understanding the situation and taking the time to be like, okay, let's teach you here a little bit. Let's start with your name, and
she's
what
not
you can do. And
she's not like making a big scene. Obviously, to treat him different. He's not same as those kids. Like, although he's an adult, he's gonna be treated the same. Not gonna be embarrassing for him, I should say, or I don't know if I wouldn't say not embarrassing. You may feel embarrassed.
I mean, it's just given the situation.
Yeah.
You kind of have to start baby steps, right?
Start somewhere.
It's a whole new language. I mean, you got to learn how to speak it, all that kind of stuff. And I never really, because I never taken a class, but I never imagined the starting steps of sign language.
Yeah.
I imagined it was the ABCs. But it was really nice to see her be really accessible to him. Yeah. And to like, this is the greatest quality of a teacher, to be able to take control of a situation and just immediately make them feel welcome. Yeah. And which is what I loved.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
But that leads into, I believe, your next favorite scene.
So I want to say these kids are at a little like dance show.
Yeah, it's like a talent show or
something
like that, or like an assembly.
Yeah, and so there's this one kid who's being just a little fidgety. He's just like not paying attention, and the teacher looks at Ruben and was like, "Hey, maybe you can just take him out because he's an adult still." So he takes him out to the playground, and I just love this. I just love this scene because the kid is on top of the slide and Ruben's on the bottom of the slide, and he barely taps it, and Ruben.
We hear this like big like.
Yeah, and it's this like metal slide, and Ruben's sitting at the bottom, so he's feeling the vibration, and then that's when he like
starts to mimic him, like
yeah,
dum, dum, dum.
Yeah. They start to like communicate with one another, even though they don't really have that connection. That connection, and then also Ruben really still doesn't know sign language.
Yeah, and I just love it because you finally get to see like Ruben smile for once, finally, and obviously with the rhythm. And him feeling it, he's drumming. Yeah, that's what I liked a lot, because he would do it, and he does a little rhythm, and the kid's just listening and feeling it. Yeah, and they're both having a good time. Yeah, and they're strangers, and I just loved it because you finally see Ruben like kind of accepting what what it is, what's his new life, and what's it gonna take.
Yeah,
And
it's a beautiful scene.
it's just, again, just super nice to see Ruben smile, and even that little kid who, that's whatever he's going through is hard as well, and they're just both having a good time.
Yeah.
So I love
it's
that
so
scene.
wholesome, man.
Yeah, and I one of the things I really enjoyed was that I love that they can communicate with each other and laugh with one another without having to know what the other is saying.
Yeah.
You know, like it literally took something as simple as and you know, they just started mimicking one another, and they kind of like looked at each other and laughed and started to do it again. And that's, you know, when we understand that you know, Ruben starts to take that moment to kind of like show the drumming that he knows a little bit, and starts, you know, playing a little pattern on the slide, and you know, like we said, he's just listening there and holding that vibration and just sitting there in that moment. And it's a very cute, wholesome scene.
Definitely wholesome.
I really enjoyed that one.
It's the scene where, you know, two of his worlds are kind of finally mixing together.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't played the drums until now, and this is one of his passions. So to see him kind of be able to express himself in a way to someone else and them understand, I think was really powerful. One of the ways also about talking about expressing yourself is one of my favorite scenes is when, you know, Joe he notices that, you know, he always wakes up early in the morning, and he pulls him aside and puts on the whole computer thing, and he goes, you know what, I'm going to tell you something. How you like to wake up early? How's 5:30 sound? And he makes like a and he goes, okay, how about 5? And he goes, I'm gonna give you a room, I'm gonna give you coffee and some breakfast, and I'm gonna give you a pen and paper. And what I want you to do is, all I want you to do in this room is to sit, and just sit, and that's all you do. And the moment you can't sit anymore, I want you to write, and I want you to not stop writing until you can find the place to be still again. And he's talking about the power of just being completely still and okay with where you're at in your life, you know? And it's the scene where he, you know, he wakes up at 5:30, he goes to the room, and he sees a little...
he does it the first time, and he's like, ah! like immediately screams and like smashes that donut.
That's a big bro moment for me, actually.
I love how his anger is coming out, but he's also restrained too, because he smashes the donut and he kind
of puts it back.
It was funny, but it was like, this dude's just angry. He's just pissed.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think he does write it down. He doesn't write anything at that moment, right?
He's just sitting there in that anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen until I believe like the second or third time when he goes in there, and then it almost becomes something like he's like, I'm gonna go in that room, like, and it's something that I get to do. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, one of the most powerful things is to, you know, Joe, as he's explaining it, he goes, and you know, if it ever gets too hard for you, what you do is you can come to me, and I'll be doing the exact same thing as you. I'll be writing.
Yep.
And I don't know, it felt really like wholesome, and like, this is like such a good support system, and it's such a good way to express yourself in ways that are genuinely helpful, rather than having all these, you know, thoughts in your head and going crazy about them. You spill them out onto the page, so you don't have to, like, you're basically unloading your burdens, right? And that's the whole. And I love how they kind of, you know, because he talks about stillness and being still and how important that is to find in your life, and how we get that payoff at the end. I think is just, it's satisfying.
Yeah, I love that what Joe says too about those moments of stillness. I forget the exact quote, but he says like those moments of stillness are like, you know, second to God or something like that,
or
like,
kingdom of God, or something
or
like
the
that.
kingdom of God, exactly. And I love how they tie that quote into the end of the film, and it's beautiful.
It
and
is.
I really enjoy the ending of the film, to be exact. But yeah, we'll go and talk about a few other of your favorite scenes if you guys have any.
My next favorite scene is, I want to say a little bit after my last one. It's, again, he's with the classroom.
Go ahead. No, I have one where he's with the classroom too. It's short, but go.
I think they go on like this little field trip, I want to say.
They're playing games,
and they're
in the
playing
field.
games, and so I actually labeled this scene as "Seeing Ruben be deaf makes me smile," because
that was one of his jobs.
Yeah,
it was one of his jobs. It says "Learn to be deaf."
Yeah.
And I wrote it like that because you finally see him.
he knows signs a little bit.
Exactly, and a little bit before the scene, makes me smile where I almost teared up is he's doing like this alphabet race.
Oh, this is my scene.
Yeah,
I love this
I
scene.
love this.
With another, I want to say student.
Yeah.
He's going.
And he's doing it with the other kid, and then one of the guys says he lost.
Yeah, he was all,
No. Again. Yeah. And then so they do it 1, 2, 3, and they do it, and he wins, and he gets like yes. And it just again seeing him be deaf and accepting like this is his new life.
yeah.
This is what it's gonna take,
Yeah.
and he's accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, it leads to that scene where they're on that field trip, and again he's with that kid from the slide, and they're playing a game.
They're playing some sort of like field game.
Yeah, they're
with
playing
one
some
another.
game, and it's just so wholesome to see all these kids finally with him accept him, and like he's no other person.
Yeah.
And it's just so wholesome and beautiful to see that. And I'm happy for Ruben to see that progress from the first day that he was losing his hearing to where he's at now. It's like you're doing the right things. Like keep on doing. Like I was like, heck yeah, like keep on going.
I started to tear up in that little sequence just because it felt like, up until that moment there was no joy to be had, but we get to see like in these little things, like Ruben is truly finding happiness in his situations, and he is, he's happy when he's with these kids, and then when he's playing around, and when he's competing with all these other people, and he's trying to truly learn. Like we can see this genuine joy not only in him but in the people around him, and people showing him like how happy they are. They're giving him the applause and doing all this stuff and really lifting him up in those moments. It's very wholesome, and it almost brought tears to my eyes as well.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat.
Yeah, I loved every scene too because we get introduced. I love they always do it to where he gets introduced and he's completely the fish out of the water, right? He's sitting at the dinner table and everyone's talking, and you see all the hand motions and all the vigor that they have.
They're like dun dun dun.
Yeah,
dun,
they're all
like
happy and talking, and he's sitting there just kind of like,
What do I do?
what do I do? He's so lost. And then we get the scene where he's at the dinner table and he's actually like talking, and he's finding his voice.
Yeah.
Which I think is it's so cool to see.
Yeah.
Because he is finally accepting his situation, at least for the most part. For the parts that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of leads into my scene too, where I don't know why he decides this, but he meets with Joe, and Joe tells him like, hey, I'm starting to think about the future, and if you wanted to stay here, you become a vital part of this community, you're really important here, and I want to think about the future, so maybe you can work with us so you could stay here and like be a part of it, you know what I mean, rather than just I don't really know what would they consider him.
I'm not sure.
The way what I thought when he was talking to him like that, because Joe is not, he's pretty old.
Yeah,
So
maybe
I
he'd
was
be like
thinking-
almost like a Joe. Like he would be like a.
I was thinking like, hey, like I might step down, and you've been here for so little, but you've done so much already, and they've grown to like you so much. Maybe you can become what I am further on. That's what I thought, maybe. But it could be different.
No, I like that. That's a good thought about his future. But
because everybody grows to love him.
Yeah, that's true.
And Joe notices it.
But we get the whole. He decides to, instead of continue on his path, he decides to. I think it's because he kind of sneaks off and looks at the computer, and he sees what Joe is or what Lou is doing.
What Lou's doing, and he gets that like
he misses her.
He misses her, but he also, I think, he misses his life.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I came here because I wanted to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not seeing deafness as a way of life. He's seeing it as a disability.
Yeah.
And he's looking at it through the lens of how can I get better?
Mm-hmm.
How can I get back?
How can I fix it?
Yeah, how can I get back to where I was?
Yeah. And, he decides to sell his audio gear, his drums. He decides to sell his van even, his tour bus. All to get the surgery for his, to get hearing back, or what he thinks. And it kind of is really hard to watch because all of these things meant so much to him, and he's selling them all in the name of his trying to fix his disability, which is exactly what Joe said he's not supposed to be in the mindset of.
Yeah.
And I guess one of my favorite scenes would be when, you know, he writes a little paper to Joe saying like, hey, I got to take care of stuff. I'll be back in a few days. When in reality, he's going to get the cochlear implants. He's going to get surgery.
Yep.
And when he comes back, Joe is waiting for him. And he goes, oh, you know, how have you been? And he goes, oh, I did the deed.
Yeah. And
He
he's like,
goes, the deed?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he even
And-
asks him, like, have you been using? Like, you look and sound like an addict.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I did the deed. I did the thing.
Mhm.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And he says, I got the surgery. Shows him.
And it completely destroys that bridge that
Yeah.
they built together.
Yeah. And I can really tell that it hurts Joe.
Yeah.
Because Joe is like fighting tears, telling him like, you know, you made your choice, and unfortunately, because of that choice, I can't have you stay here.
Yeah, because because he says we're not here to fix it. We're here to learn and grow with this and not fix it, because this is who we are now.
Yeah, it's not.
And
This isn't a disability. It's
Yeah.
it's not something that we can fix.
Yeah. And I think that's why it hurt Joe so much.
Yeah, it was because it was essentially everything that Joe was trying to show him and teach him. I mean, you know, Ruben is taking that and being like, okay, yeah, I see that, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what you're saying. I want to go do what I want to do. I want to see that, and it sucks.
It's so hard.
It sucks for him because he eventually finds out that this is worse.
Was
like
even worse.
Yeah, like I would have rather. I mean, if I was in Ruben's shoes, I would have rather have never done the surgery.
Mhm.
Like I would, you know, rather have saved the money and, you know, been content and, you know, just tried to be like, okay, this is my new normal. This is what's going to happen, and gone from there.
Mhm.
But
It breaks my heart when he asks for money.
yeah, he's like, I need money
And
to be
it's
able to
buy his
buy my RV
RV
back.
and
He's like, that's my home. That's what he says.
and that's when Joe says like,
He's like, you
This is when-
look and sound like an addict.
yeah, and I can't help you.
Yeah. He basically says like, you've broken my trust. And I
Yeah.
can't have that in this house or in this community.
Yeah.
It sends him out of his way. And I guess that kind of leads into his whole trip to, he goes to, I guess it's Paris,
I want
right?
to say
Yeah,
France.
it's Europe.
It's
Oh,
Europe.
well, I would say France.
Okay,
Yeah.
France. Yeah, and you know what, man, seeing exactly how his life
man.
has changed.
It's disorienting.
It's so
Like
horrible.
you know, we see a shot of a plane, and then immediately, you know, you hear that like iconic like European police siren,
Mhm.
but it is like, it sounds like distorted, like digitally distorted, like
cutting in and out.
it's and like everything's at this like super high frequency. It sounds like pixelated, if I can say something sounds that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like it sounds awful.
And he's just walking around.
And he is just like, okay, well, this
This
is
is
the,
my new
This is
normal.
the new normal. I have to get used to this. And there's parts too where it gets so loud, and I'm like, I almost had to like turn the TV down, just so I could get a break from hearing what he's hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found myself in the film, like after hearing that stuff that he's hearing with these implants, throughout the movie, you know, we see a perspective from other people, you know,
dude,
like that scene whenever, you know, it's the party and Lou and her dad are playing that song, and you're like, man, it sounds beautiful, and then it slowly starts to fade in with what Ruben is hearing, and it's just this like this like
almost like a radio chatter,
like this like rumble, like it's this jumbled digital sounding mess. It's
Not good.
It's nothing like what we are hearing on screen. And
such a beautiful song too.
Yeah, and I found myself like in certain scenes whenever that wasn't happening, like that's what he's hearing.
Yeah.
That is what he's hearing 24/7. And it's awful. I was just like, man,
it
could
even
not
makes me
imagine
more
that,
sad
man.
because after that scene, you get to see Lou and Ruben in bed, and he says, "Oh,
Dude,
you
this-
sounded so beautiful."
Yeah, and he's like lying to
Yeah,
her,
lying.
trying to make her feel so good, man.
It's heartbreaking.
I imagine, okay, so this is my thinking. I was like, okay, when you're out and about with all the noises, bro, just take it out. Just take it out and learn how to sign with people and get used to it. Because it seems to work really well when it's a singular voice.
One-on-one conversation.
When it's one-on-one. So just put it in then. Problem solved, right? I guess not for him, but you know, in this scene, and it kind of breaks my heart too because you know she looks so.
She looks different.
She looks good.
She's got a haircut.
Because in the beginning she looked rough.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
She's living that DIY lifestyle, man. It's punk.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, you know, I might take a shower 3 or 4 days from now. I don't, you know, I'm gonna brush my teeth on the way while we're driving. Like there's nothing. We're roughing it.
Yep.
Yeah,
you know?
she looks like she's doing great for herself,
Yeah.
right? And it kind of sucks because he's not.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
he came here for her, and she has a better life
It
without
breaks
him.
my heart too because she begins to start picking at herself and
she starts to scratch,
and I was like, oh gosh.
and he
Like-
notices too. Oh, it sucks because you know he even says like, oh, you're not scratching anymore. She goes, yeah, you know, I forget exactly what she says, but when he starts to talk to her about like, oh, our album, all we got to do is just get back into it. We got to go back to get the van. And she goes, yeah. And then, you know, they're both laying in bed and she starts scratching and he notices.
And that's when
Yeah.
I
think that
can't
was-
imagine his heart at that moment.
No,
because he
no.
even stops and says it's okay, and then this is basically the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I assume takes that as a sign as like we
Should not be together.
shouldn't be together.
Mhm.
Like you know, the things that I want, you obviously do not want anymore. You've changed your entire personality almost. You've changed your whole look. This new you is not the person I know.
Yeah.
And I can only tell that we will like continue to be bad for one another. It's
Nothing but destructive.
yeah.
So he decides to leave.
Yeah, he just packs his bag and walks back, you know, out into the wilderness,
Mm-hmm.
to the French metropolitan area, wherever it is, man. He
And
takes
this
a
is
seat.
A beautiful scene.
Tell me this
Yeah.
isn't a
This-
great ending to this movie.
The ending is my last favorite scene.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
And I love it because it's immediately so frustrating how chaotic everything is and how trash everything sounds. And
Dude, especially that noise.
The bell.
The bell.
The bell was so distorted and like choppy.
Yeah.
It sounds horrible.
Yeah. And I just can't help but feel bad
Mhm.
for Ruben. I mean, he just left his girl.
Yeah.
He flew across the world for her and finds out that, you know, they're not going to be good for one another, so I need to take the hint and go. And now I have to live like this, you know. And I love that, you know, after a while he just kind of like is looking around, listening to all this, you know, garbled mess and
Garbage.
just takes it off, like takes the implants off, and it's complete silence. And we see like that shot of the church and like the shot of like a couple other things that were, you know, causing so much noise and everything like, and now it's completely silent.
Mhm.
And I love like the shot of that tree and like how beautiful that tree looks with the sun going through it, and you know the wind is just blowing and everything like that, and everything feels silent and still. And we get that shot of just him just kind of sitting there for a moment, and
Even his whole demeanor.
his
Yeah,
whole
it
demeanor
changes.
just changes, and he
He
finds that
looks-
moment of stillness.
He looks so calm.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it like this, but for me, as the viewer, when he took those off, I found myself with a sigh of relief, like,
Mm-hmm.
good, like, that's good, like, yes, like, that's what I needed, that's what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
And as the viewer, I hate to say it because that obviously that device is supposed to help him,
Yeah.
but when he shuts it off after all that chaos, it just felt good to be
Yeah.
in peace and quiet.
Yeah.
It was, you know, we were going through that almost like assault
Mhm.
with, you know, with him. And then whenever we get that relief, he is also feeling that and is just kind of like, I can relax now. Like
Yeah.
I can
Mhm.
finally, you know, just take the load off and not have to hear all this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can really sit in those moments of stillness that Joe had talked about and recognize that these are the kingdom of God. Like I can just sit here and not have to worry about anything and just take this in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's a very beautiful scene. And I love like the subtle acting from Riz Ahmed and like his facial acting that he does. Like he kind of like takes that moment in and is just kind of like recognizing this is one of those moments that
Mhm.
that Joe was talking about.
Yeah.
And kind of has this look of just tranquility and just kind of closes his eyes a little bit and just sits there in that moment, and then
I love that
cuts to black.
They leave us with just nothing, pure silence.
He knocked on my door, literally right as it was ending, and he was like, "Oh, it's at the end." He was, "I won't ruin it," and I was like, "Oh, I've seen it before." And immediately I said, "Why is this scene so beautiful?"
It's so good. Like
I love the ending. I really do love the ending.
It's a great ending, and I the way they did it is just it's perfect for this movie.
Yeah,
and you said earlier, it's that moment of silence that Joe was talking about, the kingdom of God, and it's just like, again, I always want to get that sigh of relief. I just like all the baggage is gone, everything's gone. This is it.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing they do too, to not only give the tranquility to the protagonist, but also to the audience as well.
Yeah,
and it's funny that it's something that he relied on so heavily throughout the film. Like, it was his driving factor of, I gotta get these implants, I gotta get the implants. I don't want to, I want to hear, and at the very end he's like, I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the ultimate form of accepting his situation, where he decides to take him off.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, man, because I mean, he went through this whole thing just to realize this is
I almost
worse.
feel like it made it worse. Yeah. You said it. Like,
definitely made it worse.
Yeah. Couldn't imagine it, man.
But that's the movie.
A great ending, honestly.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so glad you picked it.
Let's get into the next category, which is best quote.
Okay. So I'll start with mine. I think all of them are from Joe.
Okay.
Honestly, the first one is when it's that quote where, he's asking him for money. He's asking him to stay, and he's breaking the trust. He goes, "Ruben, as you know, everybody here shares in the belief that being deaf is not a handicap, not something to fix. It's pretty important around here. All these kids, all of us, need to be reminded of it every day."
Yeah, I have another one from Joe that says, "Serenity is no longer wishing you had a different past."
I didn't write any down. I'm not gonna lie.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
There's some other great quotes.
The other one, it's similar to the first one I had, but it's when he's introducing him, and he's telling him about the whole program, and he goes, but if you come here, it's very important that you understand that we're looking for a solution to this, and he points to his mind, and then he says, not to your ears, or not to hearing, honestly, and it's honestly the truth. It's if you work on getting your mind on right with the situation, then you won't even be worried about solving the problem with your ears. And
I just read that quote.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, really great quote. Anything Joe says is gold.
I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, is that it for best quotes?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into some bro moments that we haven't talked about.
Do you have one? I have one that's pretty early in the movie, and it's just a stupid one. A dumb one, I shouldn't say stupid. But it's when the band crew are pulling out their merch.
Oh,
and
she
this
spits
girl,
on the
she spits on the shirt, and she goes, "Oh, but it's worth $10,000." I'm like, bro, that's so gross. Yeah. Why would you do that?
Hey, people love that, bro.
Yeah.
Dirty bathwater.
Yeah.
Being sold.
Belle Dauphine.
Yes, sir.
Oh, dude. I was just like, bro, what is this?
Amaranth. Amaranth is she's a Twitch streamer. She sells fart jars.
Are you
Bruh,
serious?
I'm gonna start doing that.
I swear. She sells fart jars for $1,000.
Bro.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I might be able to make some money.
You need a following, bro. You need someone to
want your fart jars.
You need someone to want to suck a fart out of your butt, dude. Like that's the type of audience that she's got.
Dang.
Yeah, it's wild.
One of mine is he getting to see the surgery being done.
Yeah, it made surgery footage just makes me cringe because I don't like looking at that stuff. So when we get this immediate close up of them just drilling out this man's ear canal, I was all, ugh, dude, I can't look at that stuff, man.
I didn't expect them to show it too.
Yeah,
I was like, oh wow.
Yeah. Well, first bro moment for me is when we see Lou performing by herself.
Yeah.
At this point in the film, Ruben is sneaking off upstairs, going on the computer, checking his emails and stuff, and sees that he's got an email from Lou, and then they check their little website that they've got, and he sees oh man, it looks like Lou did a solo set here, and he recognizes she's kind of moving on without me. Well, like, what the heck, dude? Like, it looks like she's doing, fine without me.
I don't know if you caught this, but so I found myself reading like some of the stuff that was on there.
Yeah.
So I have this theory.
Ruben posted on there.
Yes.
Previously, and
he
he's like,
did?
yeah, and he's like, hey, sorry, we had to cancel tour and all this stuff and everything.
Yes.
But
And literally right under that, you see a fan saying, "Oh my gosh, Lou was in England." So my theory was they were supposed to go to England, and then when she says, "I'm going to go get on a plane," that's where she went.
okay. Well, I mean, it would make sense.
Kind of like a backstab, or what?
It would make
I don't
sense. Her
know.
father lives in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. But it's just like, dang, she went quick.
well, I mean, she did have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's true.
But
So-
I just also, I mean, that's just my theory, but I also just wish we knew who she was on the phone with, because we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
So-
true.
Another one for me. When Ruben starts to sell his stuff for cash
Yes.
for Lou, it was a huge bro moment, man, because these are things that like mean so much to him, and I mean, there's history behind a lot of this stuff, and now he's having to sell it for cash. And I like that little callback to the tattoo
Yeah,
that the
it's
girl
actually
has.
on her.
I actually feel bad for her because he's using her.
Well,
he's using I mean, not really, man. I mean, she's doing him a favor by going and selling the stuff and doing it, and it doesn't seem like she's doing it she's-
Forcefully, but
yeah, it seems like she's doing it out of the kindness of her own heart.
yeah.
I liked that, showing the tattoo and stuff and that original drawing, and even that little conversation they had. She's like, I don't like too much hair. Like, like make it natural, don't make it crazy. I just want it to look nice,
They're just having a funny moment together.
yeah, it's funny. And then to see her have that tattoo where she said she wanted it and all that stuff it was a wholesome moment.
Yeah.
Like it was a sad thing that was happening right now, but when we see that, we're kind of like, aw, like that. That's
He's got a
cute.
friend.
That he does have a friend.
But yeah, and it goes to show, like Joe said, like these people are starting to love you in just a little amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. It's the impact that he, Ruben is having on this community. Is very great.
Mhm.
So
My last one was actually because we talked about the other ones. When Joe asked Ruben to leave,
Yeah.
it was just like, it was heartbreaking because this place was so good for Ruben, and he just basically threw it away.
Mhm.
yeah,
And it was just sad to see that.
yeah,
Yeah. One of my last bro moments, honestly, is just the conversation he has with Lou's dad. I was really curious as to like how they got to where they get to, because we don't really get much of their backstory or their relationship or anything like that. But he gets there and he's talking to the dad, and the dad immediately is like, I didn't really like you.
yeah.
He's like, I didn't like you at all. I thought you were taking away my precious gift of my daughter, but he goes on to say, it really wasn't it. My daughter hated me and she left, and you were the person who gave her that ability to leave and to be safe. He's like, so I thank you for that. But just the information we get of Lou's mom taking her own life, and that's kind of the reason why she's, I'm guessing, a little angsty and just completely not wanting to be home, absolutely hating her father and all that stuff. I think in a short amount of time, I think it was a lot of information that was really beneficial to the character, which I loved. But I was also like, bro, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I thought the scene was going to go actually a little different, because before the scene, when Joe asked Ruben to leave, when he asked for the money, Ruben says, Lou's father's really wealthy and this and this and that.
Oh, he's
So
like, I could pay you back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when I saw Ruben show up to the house and we see it was her dad, I assumed that conversation was going to lead him to asking for money. Which I'm glad it didn't, but that's what I assumed was going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been all kinds of.
Yeah, it would have been different. It would have been so different.
It would have been
Yeah.
rough.
Another bro moment I have is when we get that shot of Ruben in his RV, and then it takes another shot at the RV, and it just being completely bare. Like there's no
Nothing.
no posters, no equipment or anything like that, and then we slowly see somebody like walking around in the bedroom, and we immediately get the notion that he's selling the RV now. And I love the way that they decided to show it. Like it immediately, like up until that point, we only seen him sell one piece of equipment. And then afterwards we see him in the RV and then everything's gone. And we're like, dude, he sold everything. And then we slowly start to see like some shuffling, and we immediately are like, people are checking it out because they want to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I love the way that they decided to show that. It was something that like I thought was very effective with, time usage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have had this whole montage of him selling all of his stuff, but I felt it was really effective to like show one piece of equipment selling and then everything be gone, and then someone checking the thing out and then being like, I'll give you $26,000.
Which blows my mind, actually, how much he got for it.
Yeah.
I know. I wanted to talk to you guys about his whole plan of buying it back for 10% more. Like, what was he really planning on?
I don't know.
Was he planning on?
I think he was maybe planning on continuing the tour with Lou.
Yeah.
He was going to get the implant, go get Lou, and then come back.
Yeah.
And get the money that way?
Yeah,
Maybe
either through
that way.
tour or
Her dad.
or I'm thinking maybe he thought like Joe would give him money.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a very risky bet.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, how are you going to get money? You're going to spend it all on the implant. You don't have any equipment anymore. You literally sold it all.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to get money?
Yeah. And I think this is part of like kind of like what we said a little bit ago, like that addict mentality kind of starts to set in, where it's just like, I don't know how I'm going to do what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it kind of just, there's no real thinking involved. It's just kind of like, all right, let's go.
I know what I need. Kind of one step ahead,
Yeah.
not 5 steps ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no plan.
Mm-hmm.
The last one I have here is when we find out that the surgery isn't what Ruben thought it was.
Yeah.
And, Ruben had this idea in his head that, he was going to get his hearing back. Like it was going to, go back to normal. But I love the way that, the doctor breaks it down to him and is just essentially tells him, you're really not ever going to hear the way you used to again. Like your brain is not, your ears don't actually work. Your brain is just tricking itself into thinking that it's hearing. And, the devices on your head are just, translating those frequencies into what your brain thinks is sound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a heart-wrenching moment, and you can really tell in Riz Ahmed's face in that moment that he is just fully flabbergasted. Like he's just like completely broken down. It's just like kind of like what the hell did I do all this for then?
Yeah.
Like I went through this whole thing, I paid all this money, and
$40,000.
and then like I got nothing to show for it now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't even hear. Like and the stuff that I can hear, it sounds like trash.
Pretty much pointless.
Yeah, it's pretty rough scene.
What about the scene of Riz Ahmed actually shaving his head?
Yeah, that was.
It was pretty powerful.
I thought it was pretty powerful too.
Like, shoot,
him just kind of like owning up to it and like looking at his scar and then realizing, all right, I just gotta.
He actually shaved his head.
Yeah,
which I thought was crazy. He looks good with no hair though.
Yeah, he does.
He does look good. So just put that out there.
Yeah.
But that's it for the bro moments for me.
Yeah,
Me as well.
For me.
All right. Well, let's get into some facts then.
Yeah. So the budget obviously is going to be a little different because it's only streaming.
Yeah, and this around the time too, like this movie had a weird like release.
Yeah, it was really weird because I think it showed for a little bit and then it stopped.
Yeah, it was around the time that COVID was happening.
Yeah.
So this movie,
Was it?
yeah, because this movie was set to release in 2019, but then I see it released in November of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was streaming only
Yeah.
afterwards. Like it's kind of hard to place
Yeah.
it.
So I found a little bit about the budget. It was $5.4 million to make this movie.
Which is a small movie now.
Which is a small movie now, yes. And the only thing that I found what they made in revenue was for worldwide, which is $516,000. But again, it's only because, like you said, it's a weird time.
Yeah.
And it's only streaming.
Yeah,
So
I was
we don't
wondering, did it
have
come
really-
out in theater?
It came out
it's-
in theater like a small run.
For, like-
I saw that there was like a small theatrical run,
Okay.
but it's mostly streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Which-
don't.
Like I said,
There's-
it's hard to say because it's...
There's no way to calculate right now exactly what streaming numbers do
Yeah.
for for a service or how
Yeah.
much money that actually brings in or something.
I don't know.
So maybe for that time period that it showed, that's how much it just made.
Yeah, I don't imagine it being well though, because when I went on Amazon Originals, they have a category for it. I had to scroll to get to it.
Yeah.
I imagine if it's one of the heavy hitters, you just put it right in the front.
Yeah.
Sound of Metal, come watch. But it was pretty deep in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I found regarding the budget.
Okay.
I had also written down that this movie has 2 Oscar wins.
Yeah.
For best sound and then
right.
best editing, I believe. That's what it was called.
Nice.
Yeah, best sound. I pretty much agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Me too.
Yeah. I have a fact here about Joe. His actor name is Paul Racy, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Okay.
He isn't actually deaf, but his parents were. He is a prominent figure in the deaf community as a CODA, which stands for Child of Deaf Adults, and a member of Hands of Doom, a band that performs in American Sign Language.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So he kind of knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I really liked, which I thought was interesting because we don't really see this in movies that we talk about, but this whole film was shot in chronological order. So, I mean, it would only make sense to do it in chronological order because he has to get like the scars and shaving his head and stuff like that. So I just thought it was really unique because most movies obviously are not in chronological order.
Yeah.
And this one I think is really fitting for it.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I have one that plays off of that a little bit in regards to the movie being shot in chronological order. So Olivia Cooke had spent a number of months away from the set while the second act was being filmed, because she didn't need to be in those scenes, so she was never on set for those. She had stated in recent interviews that the distance created between her and Riz in the time apart was reflected in the distance between their characters Lou and Ruben at the end of the film. Oh, dang. And even felt she'd even went on to say that like it felt sort of real because they had spent so much time apart from one another that whenever they reunite at the end of the film, it kind of was like the kind of awkward.
Yeah, it was okay.
It's kind of like, oh, you're here again.
It's all weird, different. I'm different. You're different.
Dang, that's wild, but that's also really cool.
It's smart for the directors to do something like that, especially to set up that that pseudo distance or to say that if you want to elicit a certain reaction or emotion from an actor, to put them through something like that, so that way you can get that genuine reaction or something like that on film. So, another one I have here in regards to Riz Ahmed and his sort of like method acting for this movie. So during scenes wherever Ruben is struggling to reconcile his hearing loss, Riz Ahmed would wear auditory blockers deep into his ear canal that emitted white noise.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, he then told USA Today that he couldn't hear anything, including the sound of his own voice, whenever he had those in. After some time, he decided to, lose the sound blockers and simply would just immerse himself into deaf culture. And he would even communicate exclusively to the director and to the deaf cast through American Sign Language.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really unique.
Yeah, I have the facts here that he actually had to learn American Sign Language for this film, and he said that he had hoped that this film would encourage more hearing people to learn American Sign Language.
Yeah.
ASL to communicate.
Like I said earlier, I feel like it'd be cool to learn it.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I've always seen those really wholesome like little short videos of like a little girl learning how to say thank you to.
Oh, I cry when I see those. I don't even talk about it.
And the people when they see people make an effort to talk to them, they're like, oh yes, like it makes them feel like heard and seen.
Yeah,
I have a freaking customer where I work who is deaf, and at first I didn't know how to like deal with it, so I like pulled out my phone and typed it out. But now he'll like come up to me, like if I'm working, he'll come up to me because he knows that like I will help him in the way that like others won't. And he came up one day and just said thank you, like he didn't even like have. I think he's a DoorDasher, and he came up to me, he was like, and he just wrote down thank you for helping me, and I was like, so wholesome, I wanted to cry. So it's like, I don't know, like that's why I want to learn, because you see people, I like work with people who are like that.
Yeah, and now in regards to Riz Ahmed learning things for his role, I had also written down here that Riz Ahmed spent 6 months learning how to play the drums for this movie, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Which I think is funny.
It's because
it's just going.
because
doesn't
he really plays the drums maybe like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. It's not like Whiplash where he's.
Yeah, exactly. And when we see him play, it's just kind of he's just like,
Or he's
just like,
dum, dum, dum. Yeah.
like yeah, it's pretty
That's why
rudimentary. It feels like
Took 6 months. Who knows why?
Man.
Had a hard time with it.
My last fact that I have was actually Olivia Cooke was brought in as a last-minute replacement for Dakota Johnson for this character of Lou. But ever since this, she's been praised for this role of Lou. So that's pretty cool to have under her belt. Because the only thing I've actually only seen her besides this was Bates Motel.
Yeah.
Oh, Olivia Cooke?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's
in Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
She's the dying girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she was also in Ready Player One.
Oh, okay.
I forget
I've
her
never
name
seen
in
that
that.
one. I think she's in 5 Feet Apart, too, actually.
That's the only one I haven't
don't
seen
know.
with her.
I've never seen it either, but I think she's in it. I'm not 100% sure.
I
Okay.
don't know about that one.
One last fact here about an improvised scene that they had. So the scene where he has all the kids around and they have those little fake plastic drums.
Yeah.
It was that whole scene was improvised where he goes dum, and they're all having to like follow along with him, and he's going fast, and the teacher like completely fumbles the timing, and he goes. And he like they're all just playing around, but it was funny to see that scene was just completely off the dome, improvised.
Nice. All right.
Yeah,
Any other?
That's it for me.
That's it for me.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's get into what didn't work for this film. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything written down. I think one of my maybe tiny little criticisms, and that second, well, I guess you could say like final act of the film, whenever Ruben is in Europe and they're at that like dinner party and stuff and everything. I feel like the movie gets a little slow around that point, but that's really my only kind of like criticism, I would say, is like it kind of gets a little slow around there, and then afterwards it picks back up whenever we see what's her name doing the performing that piece
Lou,
with her
yeah.
dad and all that stuff. But
I kind of get what you're saying. I guess I also want that scene specifically. I don't really see like a use for that scene. Like
I think it's just to show like it's Lou having this whole life that Ruben wasn't even aware of.
Yeah,
like,
she speaks French.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Ruben even brings it up in that conversation in the bedroom afterwards and is like, you said that you don't really even remember like a ton of the stuff that happened whenever you were here. And she's like, oh yeah, well I guess,
kind of
being
suppressed
back
it all.
here, I suppressed it all, but being back here kind of makes you
brought it all
remember
back.
and all that stuff.
yeah, makes
And,
sense.
It goes to show that like there are things that, they were hiding from one another. And, now she's being put on the spotlight in front of all these people at her dad's birthday party, and she kind of has to,
Just do it.
Yeah. Not only sing in front of people, but sing a song that the father had written to his mother or for his mother.
Exactly. And then it also, plays into that transition from, what the audience is hearing and then to what Ruben is hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of plays into one of my criticisms of like, I really wanted a little bit more of Lou in this.
Okay.
And her connection to Ruben, only because I kind of didn't believe that much that they would be so disconnected, because not a lot of time has passed, right?
Yeah, I don't believe so, man. If
I want to
anything,
say like a month or two.
Yeah, I was gonna say if anything, a couple months.
Yeah, I kind of didn't, because they loved each other, and the fact they kind of didn't really like, they just.
Well, they didn't keep in contact. Imagine.
Yeah, but she knows why.
Yeah,
he couldn't have his phone. Like, it's not like he didn't want to talk to her. She knew that. I mean, so it's kind of weird to see her just be like,
but
yeah,
imagine
we're two completely different people now. Like, it's only been a few months, but my life is completely better without you. You know what I mean? I kind of wanted to see a little bit more of, like, her dealing with her emotions and her kind of working through that as well to get to where she's at.
Yeah.
I mean,
I get you, but it's like you can't just sit around and wait for him. So she has to do something to fill that time.
Well, yeah, but I just don't expect her to move on that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, 4 years of love. Yeah,
well, it seems like she did such a radical move from going. I'm guessing she went from Europe all the way to, I don't know where they were at.
Somewhere in America.
Somewhere in America. Yeah. So it's like she completely left her dad. She hated her life, and she went into this whole scene, and it almost leads me to believe like, oh, that was just a phase for her, or
It's just
like,
a phase, Mom.
or it only feels that way because it's like I don't know. It seems like what she decided to do was not good for her life. You know, she's self-harming. She's itching. She's scratching. Like, she's dealing with anxiety, and it's only until she leaves that lifestyle that she has a better life.
Yeah, she's a poser, bro.
She's a poser.
She is, man. She's one of those rich art school kids that's like, oh, man, I get to venture out and do all this crazy, wacky stuff and then go back and tell all my rich friends about what I did. She even goes on. She's like, yeah, I told all these people about our life. She says a word I don't think is correct anymore. But she's like, yeah, I told people about this, you know, this whole little lifestyle that we had, and they all just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it kind of seemed that way, right?
Yeah, and this is a problem I have, like, with people. Like, and I see a lot of memes around, like, music pages I follow where it's like, it'll be like a person crying or something like that, and it'd be like, oh, man, when you can't finish your EP because your dad won't give you any money from your trust fund and blah, 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 all this stuff and everything, and you can't live your DIY crust punk lifestyle that you wanted so badly. And it's like, you grew up privileged. You have everything you want on a silver platter, and there's nothing you could ever really like not have or want that was provided for you. And you're only doing this because you want to have a story to tell later.
Yeah, I kind of wanted more, only because I was left at the end feeling like, man, like, she kind of sucks a little bit. She like, I just felt weird that she got so disconnected from him. When we saw them, they were so in love and connected and supporting each other at the beginning. Yeah, it just felt a little strange that they were just like,
you know what it was? She was the opposite of Minnie Driver's character in Good Will Hunting. That whole fight scene in Good Will Hunting where he was like, you just want to be. He said it's like, you just want to tell everybody that you hooked up with some kid from Southie who was poor and all that stuff, and that because you felt bad for him or something.
And she's like,
no, like I don't want to do that. I truly do love you. Not her.
No, not her.
She's like, yeah, I did. I did want to say I had all this lifestyle, and we traveled the United States playing music, and we were in love, but that's not me anymore.
Caught me.
Oh, sorry,
Whoopsie.
man.
That's the only thing I hated, is that it just felt so like flat at the end. And she was crying. She was like, why are you saying it's okay? All that stuff. But I was like, you're not really carving like any space for him in your life anyways. Yeah. You're not accommodating to him whenever it comes to the party.
Anything.
Yeah, it didn't seem very, like, he didn't seem wanted there at all.
No.
And
she was completely fine with him just being like, yeah, just stay up here.
Yeah.
She was, and he was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, go do your thing.
Yeah, and like at the party, he was being kind of a wallflower, and she noticed it, but she still, I don't know, just kind of tarnished my view of her, because at the beginning she felt so wholesome, and she's like, look, I want to be with you, but this is for the best. I have to leave so you can go here because they can give you what you need. And then only for them to reconnect at the end, I was like, man, you really, like, you're not good for each other.
Yeah.
And it kind of just tarnished her character in my mind a little bit.
Okay. Any other things that didn't work for y'all?
No.
Everything else worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get into what did work then. Let's highlight a few things.
The first thing I want to highlight is, so I told Nick about this, like, I love that they did this. There was a lot of filler scenes where it was just like landscapes, and it made this movie really beautiful. Yeah. Like there's one scene that I think specifically, and it's when the RV is just driving, and it's all just green around it, and I was just like, dude, that's beautiful. Like, and again, like you say, the tree with the light coming through. There's a scene with a bunch of flowers, and it's just quiet, and it's just like what Ruben is hearing, quiet, or what we want to hear, and it's just nice, and it was super beautiful to see that. Yeah, and that's something that I really enjoyed.
It had almost a different effect for me too, and it was kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. But the scenes are connected. There'll be a scene, and then it's connected by just a still.
Yeah.
Or like, the camera's in one spot and it's just filming nature pretty much. And it kind of just helped to like highlight there was one that for some reason stuck out to me so hard. It was, we were getting all the scenes of him not being able to hear anything. And then one of the connective scenes is of just wind wisping through grass.
Yeah. And you hear like the insects like trilling. And
I appreciated it so much more.
Yeah.
To hear just the whole.
Yeah.
And it's something that you just. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
You pass it off, but in this instance, it's kind of like, man.
Well, seeing both perspectives from what we hear and then from what now he's hearing, what people who are deaf can't hear.
Yeah, and then being able to hear, little things like, the leaves rustling.
Yeah,
it's something that is immediately so like calming and soothing. And you're just kind of like, man, I'm grateful for that sound right there.
It definitely was a reminder of what we have and the comforts we have that he didn't, that he doesn't.
Yeah. I'll say too, like that plays into the amazing sound and editing.
Yeah.
Like in this, I really do love the smart, like smart is an understatement. Like the decision to show us exactly what it is that a person hears and to get like into as much detail as they do, is like a stroke of genius. I would say like the way that they design this movie from a sound aspect and an editing aspect is so immersive.
Oh yeah.
And I really do appreciate it for what they do here. And it is one of those things where you watch it and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, man, I can't believe that this is what this guy has to go through and what he's hearing. And it truly does make us like yearn for those moments where we get to hear things the way we're used to hearing them, and then at the end of the film we're kind of just like, man, like I'm grateful for what I got. I don't ever take that for granted.
Sound design was honestly, I'm glad it won an award for that, or sound editing or whatever it won, just because it's so unique, man. It was so cool to be so involved in the story in a way that is easy to understand, because everyone has the questions of like, okay, you're deaf, but like what does that mean? Like, what do you hear or do you not? Like, you know what I mean? It's I get that same thing with people who are blind. Yeah, it's just like darkness. You know what I mean? It's just these questions that you just think of randomly, but they give you the medium to experience it. It's like this very muffled, at least through his experience, it's muffled and like, and then he gets the surgery and he has to go 4 weeks of just pure silence. Yeah. And I don't know, it was just a very visceral way to experience that with the character. You know what I mean? So I'm glad it won that. And just going along with the whole cochlear implant noises and how just completely horrendous they were. Yeah, seriously. Gave me a whole new appreciation for hearing. Yeah. Which I loved, man. I thought they did such a great job at not only like, also like what really worked is the sound in perspective of going through his perspective and hearing what he hears, and then just going to average mundane life and hearing people riding their bikes or people crunching bread or people kicking the ball around, and then to hear what he hears, and it just sounds so robotic and chaotic, and it was just really genius how they did that. Yeah.
I agree.
Another thing that I liked, and I hinted on it in the beginning of the movie, it just brings light to the ASL community. And like I said, we go on with our day-to-day life and not think about this. But now, rewatching this is my second time rewatching it, makes me think, like, what can I do to even better myself for that community? Okay. So I just something that I really enjoyed with this.
Nice.
For sure, yeah.
One thing I'd never really shout out with movies, but I feel like it needs to be highlighted with our two main characters here, at least, is the costume design. I really do appreciate some of the costume design choices that are made by the people that did the stuff for Ruben and for Lou. Like, shout them out, dude. He's got the Youth of Today hoodie.
I was about to say, you got the Youth of Today
He's
shirt.
got the rudimentary Penny shirt. He's got the Gizm shirt as well. Like, he's got a ton of like great like punk band like metal stuff that is, it's the costume design's on point, and it makes me believe that this guy is like truly in that scene.
Oh yeah,
and
she's got the bleached hair,
the bleached hair, the tattoos. Like
says, "Please kill me." On it.
Exactly, like everything about their characters and the costume design down to the way they look and everything.
Yeah.
It's totally believable, and I really enjoy the way that they decided to portray them as the people that they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that with this movie.
Yeah. Not only are they believable, like in the scene that they're in their universe, I just think that their acting just shines so brightly here.
Yeah, it was really good. Olivia Cook, like I said, I never seen her besides Bates Motel.
Yeah.
I think she killed it here.
Yeah, I would like to see her in more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She has this way of like looking at somebody and like not crying, but looking like she's about to.
On the verge.
Yeah, and she does that a lot in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see more from her and see what she's got up her sleeve. This movie, I liked Riz Ahmed from Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
I was about to say you had Nightcrawler.
But this movie, I was like, man, I like him. Like I want to see what he's going to continue to do.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what else he does in the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also got to say, dude, this movie is. We talked about some how beautiful this movie is. The cinematography and framing and lighting that they use in this. Like I immediately think of like the lighting and framing they use in that intro shot where it's just Ruben and he's behind that drum kit and he's just going dum, dum, dum. The way the lighting is on him and the framing around him and stuff where we see like his like real brightly bleached hair and all these tattoos around him and he looks like jacked.
Mm-hmm.
He looks good. He does.
Yeah, like it makes him look so cool, and I love the use of cinematography throughout this entire film. It's really beautiful, and the use of coloring and all that stuff. It's very pleasing to look at.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to highlight the story itself, I enjoyed it. I thought it was compelling to see a man, fully involved in something and then get it taken away.
Yeah.
Same situation with Star is Born.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of character arc that he goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I was compelled by it. And I really like the fact that it starts off going a pace 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't.
Yeah, same.
It kind of cuts away all the fat.
It does.
Leaves you with just the meat. You know what I mean? And it was 2 hours, but it didn't.
It didn't feel like 2 hours.
There wasn't all that much that you would could cut out of it.
Yeah.
It's a little, But I enjoyed it for that reason.
Yeah, I would agree as well.
So,
anything else for what did work for you guys?
I think we hit them all.
that's it for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wins this movie?
I put Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, same.
I put
Joe, you put Joe?
I think I did put his name is Paul Racy.
Paul Racy.
Joe.
I could see that though.
I don't know. I love him.
He's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT, man. Every time he was on the screen, everything he had to say, I was like, all right, I love this guy.
Yeah.
So I really like Riz Ahmed, but I'm going to stick with Paul.
Okay.
Paul wins it.
What are some themes for this movie?
I put 2.
Okay.
So the first one that I put is being different is okay.
Okay.
Just accepting that. And then the second one is the journey to a new life.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd put down find that moment of stillness.
Yeah, I put acceptance and the value of stillness.
All right. Awesome. What are we rating this?
I'm going to give this one an 8.
Okay.
I gave this one an 8 as well.
All right. I'm also giving it an 8.
Oh my god.
Triple 8.
It's a great movie, man.
Yeah.
It's not one of my like 10s.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is nonetheless a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll return to it anytime soon, though.
I don't think I'd return to it anytime soon, but I think like maybe further on when like it's on TV or something, I'd be like, hey, that's a good movie. Like I don't mind watching it again.
I don't know.
I don't know if this movie has like the rewatchability of something like I would say like like a Peanut Butter Falcon or like
I've never seen that one.
like a like a Napoleon Dynamite like something that I can put on and just be like, oh man, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewatch it so much.
Yeah.
This movie is great when it's on, and I think it's kind of one of those movies where you watch it once or twice and you're like, man, that's a great film, and you just kind of let it sit there for a little bit. Or if you recommend it to somebody and they're like, oh, I want to watch it, with you or something.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out with you.
I think for a film to be rewatchable, it's got to have some kind of humor in it, right? At least
I would think that, or it has to have something that, you know, calls to
pulls you
you
back.
that pulls you back in specifically. It's
Yeah.
like, man, there's just something about that makes me want to go back to that and revisit it all the time.
Just like Sharkboy and Lava Girl.
this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I would also say like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, I know. When it's Ong instead of Aang, Ong.
The Avatar.
You sent us that,
Dude, you sent us that, and I wasn't gonna watch it because I don't care about Avatar: The Last Airbender. And he started watching it, and I said, "I know that's wrong."
even before that video, dude. I promise
You always say it's the worst movie.
it's the worst, dude. It's the worst. It's the worst freaking movie. Like, they do everything they can to get it wrong. Everything they make. It's
So
like
if that's
they
the case, go check it out.
It's like they decided. They're like, okay, we know how it, it's almost like they know.
Yeah.
And they decided to
And
go
they're
the
like,
opposite way.
Here's all this great source material.
F
Let's
it up.
just throw that in the garbage
And make our own.
Just do whatever we want.
It's almost like you purposefully have to mess up.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
It's Aang, not Ong.
Yeah.
Dude, I can go on a 1,000-hour rant on that stupid freaking movie. And it tarnished all of his other films for me. I don't really watch his stuff.
I don't watch M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Never.
I don't watch M.
Who
Night
is it?
Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan.
He
did,
most
like,
recent movie.
Signs and that movie Old.
Yeah, Old is the
something.
most recent movie he has out, and I've heard it's trash.
Yeah, like
Well, okay, I've heard just the dialogue is trash.
I think the last movie I watched of his was The Village.
Yeah, and how was that?
It was meh.
It's man.
Yeah.
It's either
Yeah.
trash or just yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's none. He doesn't really have any one of those movies where I'm like,
Split?
oh, no,
He did
that is
Split?
fire. Yeah,
But
like,
I go to Split not for the directing, but for
Bro,
the
you
acting.
can't, don't hate on him. He did Stuart Little.
he did not do Stuart Little.
It is on here.
He directed Stuart Little. Click Stuart Little. I want to see who the director is because it also says She's All That, and I know he did not direct She's All That.
2-inch rat, man. Can you believe that?
Can't
fact?
do King Stuart like that.
True.
Shoot, where is it?
Sometimes, you can't really trust it because sometimes he'll be
He'll be like,
credited
oh
for
yeah,
something.
he's like the producer.
Yeah,
Like,
and
he's got a producer credit, and he's nowhere to be found. He just gave money.
it's stupid.
Oh,
I
he
don't-
wrote the screenplay. He wrote Stuart Little.
He wrote Stuart Little.
Yeah, Rob Minkoff. I want to say his last name. He directed it.
I haven't watched Stuart Little in so long.
Dude,
I used to love that movie as a kid, though.
1999.
Dude, I don't know why that scene is ingrained in my head. Maybe it's Stuart Little too. Whenever the mom loses her ring in the drain,
Yes.
and she makes Stuart
yes.
Little go in the drain to get it.
That's the second one. It's the second one. I know specifically the one you're talking about.
No, the only scene I can think of is
It's
when
when
they.
he's riding his car in New York.
Oh, is his red one?
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of when he makes that like dumb little paper boat. And he
Yeah,
rides on the
he
boat.
rides in that little boat race that
Yeah.
they do, right? Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think.
It was nominated for an Oscar. Stuart Little.
For what?
best animation.
I'm going to click it right now. I'm just on the IMDb. For best effects, visual effects.
Yeah, it's because Stuart Little, man.
Stuart
Hey, how
Little
tall is Stuart Little?
2 inches.
2 inches.
With his Nikes on, he's 2.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the movie.
That's the episode, y'all.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
if you made it all the way to the end, let us know in a comment. Share the videos, like, subscribe, do all you got to do. Rate and review the show on our Apple Podcast page as well. It lets us know that you guys are really enjoying the content, or if you guys want to see a change or anything like that, you can always let us know either through the rate and reviews or through the comments. And just interacting with the content, man. It really does help. We've had a couple of people reach out to us letting us know some movies that we want us that they're wanting us to do, and just letting us know that they're enjoying the stuff, and it's been really uplifting to see that stuff, and we really do appreciate you guys taking time out of your guys' day to listen to us and to interact with the content, and it's also uplifting to see you guys enjoying it. So we do appreciate y'all for doing so. I think without further ado, as always, end of business type stuff. If you want to find us on any social media platforms, or want to find out how to contact us, everything that you can contact us on is in our every episode description. We've got Instagram, Letterboxd accounts, the podcast email, all that stuff. So if you're ever interested in following us on social media to see what we're doing there, or just shoot us an email if you ever want to. All that's in the the episode descriptions.
Yeah.
But without further ado, I believe it is Abraham's pick next week.
It is, and I've been holding back on this movie for a while. I've been wanting to watch it again, but I think it's the perfect time to watch it. And I'm choosing the 2019 film Parasite.
This was... Man, it's hard to say because there are so many bangers that came out in 2019.
Dude,
No, this for sure is the best.
Yeah. Like, it's
top
between
35 movie, rated 35 movie in the top 100 for the IMDb.
It's hard to pick for me because 2019 was such a fire year.
Yeah.
Like,
Joker,
I put like
Joker,
this,
1917,
like this, Uncut Gems, and The Lighthouse. Those all came out in the same year.
Which is crazy.
And I love every single one of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about, oh my gosh, Midsummer.
That came out in 2019
2019,
as well?
Us,
Okay.
Marriage Story.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, I'm telling you, this movie...
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It was a banger year.
Yeah.
Like it's... I'm happy that I was able to go to the theater as much as I did that year because I was seeing movies constantly, and every time I went in the theater, I was just blown away because I loved everything.
Yep.
But this movie, man, Parasite, I've had one of my... Nick and I went and saw the re-release whenever it originally had its theater run. I slept on it. I didn't ever go see it. And then when I saw that it got nominated for Best Picture and Best International Film, I'd read a little bit about it, and everyone had always said, don't read too much about this film. Go into it blind. Just know that it is. You think it's one thing, and then it turns out to be an entirely different thing.
Different.
Well, when I watched
the molding of different genres.
Yeah, and that's what we went in.
crazy.
That's what Nick and I went to this re-release with that information, and that's all we had.
Dude.
And man, when I tell you, I've had that was the best theater experience I've ever had in my life so far.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Was watching Parasite with all these people who've already seen it or wanted to watch it for themselves for the first time.
I'm sad I didn't get that.
I swear to you, the best experience.
The whole
when I
theater
watched
was in
it,
unison going. We were all on the edge of our seats.
All on the edge of our seats. We were
Yeah.
all laughing at the same parts.
Yeah.
Like it. And man, I enjoyed it, and I wish I could have more theater experiences like that. It was awesome.
I think this was the first film that I've ever seen in a foreign language.
Oh, okay.
So when I watched it, I was with someone, and I was like, I don't want to watch it. Like I don't want to read subtitles. I was that type of person. I don't want to read subtitles the whole time. But then I watched it, and I like you guys said, I was like, I was dying laughing. I was gasping. I love this movie, and I watched it on a little 32-inch screen TV.
Yeah,
And I haven't seen it since 2019.
Yeah, me
so
neither.
I've watched it one time since then, and it's one of those movies where I'm like,
I still remember parts of it though. It's like,
oh yeah, this
it's
etched
like-
in my brain.
it's
Oh,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
I've only watched it once since that time I watched it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, when I watched it, like I picked up things that I noticed on a rewatch for the first time, and I was just like, "This movie is so smart. Like, the writing is impeccable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many things that we'll be able to talk about with this movie,
Oh, yeah.
and so
I'm
much
so excited.
so much hidden meaning and symbolism and all this stuff, man. Like, I hadn't walked out of a movie theater not being able to put what I loved so much about the movie into words.
Yes.
Like Nick and I left that theater. It was probably like 12 at night, and both of our girlfriends at the time were at Target just wandering around because they didn't want to watch the movie. And we walked out. We started walking towards Target, and the whole time we were just like, "Dude, that part, dude, I love the way remember the part." Like, dude, and it was great, man. And I can still say that even on a rewatch, just watching it at home on my my TV, I still felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can't wait.
It's a great film, man, and I'm excited to revisit
so
it.
excited.
It's been a long time coming, man. I have not rewatched it yet. I deliberately chose not to rewatch it, only because, like Isaiah was saying, this is like such a memory that I didn't want to tarnish again. It's like one of those movies that I didn't want to
Ruin.
Yeah, I didn't want to ruin. I don't like that one experience to me will last me forever. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that I cherish a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been holding back on it, because we've talked about this movie just randomly, just like, dude, remember this part? And that's why I was like, I don't want to like pick apart this movie because it's so good.
It's gonna be interesting to go back and and dive into it.
But I'm excited to watch it because I've been wanting to rewatch it so bad.
Yeah.
But the only place I hate to say it, but it's streaming on Hulu with a premium subscription. So we'll probably have to rent it or something. I think I own it.
I own it as well.
I own this thing too.
So
I want it on Criterion. I do not have it on Criterion.
Not yet.
The cover is so sick. It's like I would love to see all the little extras and supplements that they come with it, and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but that is the movie.
Awesome. I do remember whenever I immediately saw this in Target when it came out, and it said won Best Picture and all this stuff and Best Writing, whatever it won. As soon as I saw it in Target, I was like, I gotta get it. Yeah. I got to, and I immediately bought it and all that stuff. So, actually, I think I have a digital copy of it. Maybe I can give you guys my login. You guys can watch it that way, so you don't have to rent it or anything.
For sure.
But all right. So if you have not for y'all.
Imagine they start spamming you. Hey, let me get that login. Let me get that login.
You're gonna have thousands of charges on your account.
Yeah, for real. Not for y'all. For the homies.
For Film Bros.
So go check out Parasite. Come back next week and tell us what you thought about that movie. As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.